In this movie, I'll show you how to introduce Pantone spot colors into your artwork. Now, the first thing we want to do is protect the black and white version of the graphic by duplicating it. So I'm going to go ahead and select the fused art layer, and then I'll bring up the Layers panel flyout menu, and I'll choose Duplicate Fused Art. And then I'll turn off the original just to protect it, and I'll double-click on an empty portion of the new layer to bring up the Layer Options dialog box. And I'll go ahead and call this layer Solid Colors. And I'll change its color to, let's say, gold, just to distinguish it from the other layers, and then I'll click OK. All right, now what we want to do is simplify our swatch collection here inside the Swatches panel. You get to that panel by going to the Window menu and choosing Swatches. In my case, it's already up, of course. And now I'm going to delete everything except white and black. So I'll go ahead and click on RGB red right there, and I might increase the size of my panel just a little bit there. And then I'll shift-click on this jive pattern, and I'll also go ahead and control-click or command-click on the Mac on each one of these color groups. And then I'll get rid of them by pressing the Alt key or the Option key on the Mac and clicking on the little trash icon. And the reason I press the Alt or Option key is to bypass any warning. All right, now that we've nicely pared down the number of swatches inside our panel, I'll go ahead and add those Pantone swatches by clicking on this little library icon right there in the lower left corner of the Swatches panel. Then you want to choose Color Books. And finally, you want to choose Pantone Plus Solid Color. You don't want CMYK or Color Bridge because all the colors in those libraries are process colors. We want spots. So again, Pantone Plus Solid Coded. And then, rather than trying to find exactly the color you're looking for inside of this long list, you can just go ahead and dial in a color number up here in the search field. So I'll dial in 285 for starters. And there's 3 colors that match that. And I'll go ahead and make them a little bigger by bringing up this flyout menu here and choosing Medium Thumbnail View. And that way I can hover over each one of these swatches to find out what their numbers are. So this first one's 5285. This last one's 3285. What we want is just regular old 285. And now to add it to your document, go ahead and double click on that swatch and you'll see it appear here inside the Swatches panel. Now go ahead and dial in 325 and you'll see 4 different swatches, 3258, 3255, 3252, and then finally plain old 325. And I'll go ahead and double click on it to add it to my swatches panel as well. And now you can just go ahead and close this panel. All right, the next thing we want to do is assign that rich blue to the planet. So I'll go ahead and click on my artwork like so. And notice that my fill is active here inside the Swatches panel. And so now I'll just go ahead and click on Pantone 285 to assign it to the planet. All right, now we need to add the Earth inside of Saturn. And the first time around, I went ahead and represented the Earth as a big, massive circle. And to get a sense for what that looks like, I'll go ahead and turn on my Guides layer down here at the bottom of the stack. And then I'm going to click on the Guides layer to make it active as well. I want this circle to be centered on this region right here at the bottom of the rocket. So what I'm going to do is grab my rectangle tool from the Shape Tool flyout menu, and I'm going to draw a rectangle from one corner of that exhaust trail to the other corner like so. And that will create a filled rectangle, which of course is not what I want. I want it to be a guide. So I'll go up to the View menu, choose Guides, and then choose Make Guides. And that will turn that guy into a snapping guide. All right, now go ahead and click on the Solid Colors layer once again. And then we want to switch from the Rectangle tool to the Ellipse tool. And I'm going to start by dragging from the center of that rectangle, which represents the mean point that is between each one of these anchor points at the bottom of the exhaust trail. And as I drag, I'm going to press the Alt key or the Option key on the Mac. So I'm dragging outward from the center. And I'll also press the Shift key so that I'm constraining my ellipse to an exact circle. So I have both the Shift and Alt keys down here on a PC. That would be the Shift and Option keys on the Mac. And notice if I were to release at this point, I would end up with a circle that has too much bend associated with it. I want a little bit of a flatter circle. So here's what I came up with. I went ahead and Alt-clicked or Option-clicked at the center of that rectangular guide to bring up the ellipse panel. And then, because we're already starting with the circle, I'll go ahead and turn on the chain in order to link these two values together, and I'll change the width value or the height value, doesn't matter which one, to 1,000 points and click OK. Now, obviously, that's way too big. And now I'm going to fill this circle with a pure turquoise by clicking on the Pantone 325 swatch. All right, obviously, our circle is totally covering up the artwork, which isn't what I want. So what I need to do is move it backward and down at an angle that matches the angle of my artwork. And so what I'm going to do is switch back to my black arrow tool, and I can either double-click on it at this point or just press the Enter key or the Return key on the Mac in order to bring up the Move dialog box. And rather than messing with the horizontal and vertical values, which really aren't going to do me any good, I'm going to change my distance value to 200 points, just for starters, because I know I want a big movement. And now I need to figure out what the angle should be. I know, just because I remember this, that I rotated my artwork negative 30 degrees, but obviously that's not the angle that I'm looking for. Rather, I need to move this circle perpendicularly to the artwork. So I need to subtract another 90 degrees like so. So you enter negative 30 minus 90, and then you press the Tab key, at which point Illustrator does the math for you and calculates an angle of negative 120 degrees, which happens to be exactly right. And now if I click in a distance value and press Shift up arrow, like so, you can see that the Earth is moving along the proper axis. So it's moving along that rocket. And at a distance of 280 points, things work out pretty well. So now I'll click OK in order to accept that change. All right, now I don't want my Earth to be this massive, so I'm going to crop it by first switching to the outline mode. So you go up to the View menu and choose Outline, or you can press Control-Y or Command-Y on the Mac, so that I can see my Saturn artwork in the background. I'm also going to turn off those guides because they're a little distracting at this point. Then I'm going to switch back to the Rectangle tool, and I'm going to draw a rectangle. Notice my smart guides are turned on. I'm going to draw a rectangle from about here down to somewhere, let's say, at the bottom of the letters. And notice that I'm enclosing this portion of the circle right there. And now I'll go ahead and switch back to the black arrow tool, which I can get by pressing the V key. And I'll shift click on the circle to select it as well. So both my new rectangle and the circle are active. And now that both the rectangle and the circle are selected, I'll go up to the window menu and choose the Pathfinder command to bring up the Pathfinder panel. And then I'll go ahead and click on this third icon in Intersect. And that'll keep the portion of the circle that overlapped the rectangle. All right, now I can hide the Pathfinder panel and press Control-Y or Command-Y in the Mac to switch back to the preview mode. Now I need to put this portion of the circle inside Saturn. So I'll go ahead and press Control-X or Command-X on the Mac to cut that turquoise shape to the clipboard. And I'll go ahead and click on this little double arrow icon at the top of the toolbox to switch to the double column toolbox so that I can get to these icons down here. But first, I need to go ahead and click on the blue graphic to select it. And now I'll click on the Draw Inside icon, like so, and I'll see these dotted corners, at which point I can go up to the Edit menu and choose the Paste in Place command in order to paste the Earth inside Saturn like so. And then finally, I'll just go ahead and click on Draw Normal to switch back to the normal drawing mode. I'll return to the single column toolbox as well, and I'll click off the artwork to deselect it. And that's how you assign a couple of Pantone spot colors that are going to print as advertised, even when you have no control over the print process, here inside Illustrator.